Hi, I'm Dave.
And I'm thoroughly miserable.
And welcome to Sofa Reviews. Today we're watching Ghost Rider 2.
The Spirit of Vengeance!
So we start with 5 minutes of poorly filmed nonsense where we're introduced to Moreau the badass priest, Carrigan the mercenary, Danny the plot device, and Nadia, his slutty mother.
And if you like Giles from Buffy, tough.
Moreau's bike is thrown off a cliff, but he's too busy being a badass to waste time with his imminent death.
And it's at this point that a mediocre action film becomes one of the worst fucking films I've seen in my life.
It doesn't matter how far you run. There are some demons you just can't escape.
We're treated to a poorly animated opening credit sequence that attempts to retcon the first film and does a superb job of demonstrating the lower budget.
After that, Nicolas Cage detects an actor with talent and charisma, and so obviously immediately attacks.
Who are you? My name is Moreau. My brothers are dead, as should I be, if not for the intervention of God.
It turns out that God is a tree.
Nicolas Cage then decides to make a deal with Moreau because they've never gone bad for him in the past.
We are prepared to give to you the one thing you want most of this world.
A shred of talent.
A smaller forehead.
Carrigan tracks down Nadia and Danny the plot device, and so we board the crazy train to bad CGI and even worse action.
As a guy with a flaming skull on a flaming motorbike is a fairly mundane sight, the goons barely react and then easily start shooting.
Once the rider has finished posing, he goes to have a look at the best thing in this film, henchman number 3's glorious moustache.
Things take a darker turn, however, when the rider realises he'll never have such glory on his face.
He casually kills 3 henchmen before Carrigan remembers that he has a grenade launcher in the car for just such an occasion.
He wakes up in the hospital the next day, scares a nurse, steals some drugs, and stares at a woman.
Elsewhere, we're introduced to the villain of the piece, Rourke, who explains to Danny the plot device that he's being groomed to be the next Nicolas Cage.
This now means that Nicolas Cage is unable to track Danny the plot device because of reasons.
I could feel him before. I could sense him, and then nothing. No, he's not dead. He's just blocked.
Having no idea where Danny the plot device is, Nicolas Cage and Nadia start driving around randomly. To fill the time, Nadia awkwardly starts explaining her deal with the devil.
But he asks for something in return.
Son?
Maybe you can never understand.
No, I get it. You're the devil's baby, Mama.
After that touching moment, they continue their aimless hunt for Danny the rape child.
Nicolas Cage questions one of Carrigan's lackeys with his trademark blend of guile and subtlety.
The only thing standing between you and the rider is me. And he's scraping at the door! Scraping at the door!
He runs off, killing the only innocent guy in the building before finding his bike.
Cut to random driving sequence which was seemingly put into the film to drive me to self-mutilation.
And remember kids, don't self-harm unless you're really cool.
And now we're here for some reason. Carrigan buying weapons as Nadia saves Danny the rape child.
The rider shows up and kills a bunch of goons in a scene that is brilliant if you're hoping to slip into a coma before chasing after Danny the rape child.
Apparently, breaking his ankle has given Danny the rape child magical powers, being able to deactivate the rider at will.
Carrigan has been slowly dying under a rock for several hours before Rourke shows up to dye his hair, also giving him magical powers.
I'm giving you power. The power of decay.
It was at around this point that the rider started pissing fire and I blacked out due to rage.
After I'd finished, I woke Greg up just in time for him to see the Highlander.
Moreau explains that eating bread in a sarcastic fashion will undo the demonic curse.
You've been carrying this bread around for a while.
Once the curse is removed, he finds the priests rushing to kill Danny the rape child in a needlessly slow and ritualistic fashion.
The day of prophecy is tomorrow. We are to hold the boy until the danger passes.
Carrigan appears and is able to defeat the monks with the power of lens filters, abducting Danny the rape child in the process.
Because the fate of the world is in the balance, they sit around bitching at each other until Moreau tells them where the ritual will be held.
I've made a lot of mistakes, Blaze. But Danny... Danny's the one good thing I ever did.
So Danny the rape child, whose mere existence could doom the world to endless suffering, is the best thing you've ever done? Have you ever considered suicide?
They head in, Nadia somehow using a sniper rifle with ease, before Moreau begins Operation This Film Should Clearly Have Been About Me.
Ah, bonjour! Catch this one, huh? What a waste of good wine! Mad.
Sadly, he's eventually stopped by Carrigan, but even in death manages to be the coolest thing in this film.
Nicolas Cage is caught, but it's revealed that Carrigan's powers of decay are no match for Nicolas Cage's gigantic forehead.
Suffering no ill effects from his earlier sedation, Danny the rape child mounts Nicolas Cage, transforming him back into the rider.
Rourke flees with Danny the now redundant plot device, leading to a car chase with all the suspense and dramatic tension of a small hedge.
Because they need to have a battle, Carrigan just appears in front of Nadia's car and then has a fight with the rider.
Advertise that. What he's doing, King, he's squeezing his head. For God's sakes, man. Yeah, but he's cutting the blood off to his head.
The rider luckily remembers that he can win if he looks at people.
The rider confronts Rourke, who is seemingly so scared he's forgotten that he has magical powers.
The rider sends Rourke back to hell, and this unrelenting assault on the senses finally comes to an end. And in conclusion, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Well, there are somehow a few good points to this film. It is quite visually interesting and impressive, the location manager having done a pretty good job overall, coupled with some dynamic and interesting cinematography.
Also, Idris Elba is a fucking badass in this film and easily the best thing in it. Although sadly, that kind of is the same as winning a boxing competition where all of the other competitors have no arms and are dead.
The editors also make some fairly bold choices, but it comes across as feeling quite forced, like they were trying to make a cult film out of it rather than it being organic to the storytelling.
And what a story. Not content with fucking over the original film, they then decide to copy Superman 2, with him losing his powers only to regret it and get them back, but without any kind of tension that the hero might actually lose.
The supporting cast are woefully mismanaged. The assorted villains are one-dimensional and get far too much screen time. Then you have actors, charismatic ones like Anthony Head and Christopher Lambert, who are introduced and almost immediately killed off to the point of farce. And then you get to Danny and Nadia, who we're meant to empathise with, but it's a frankly impossible task because they have all the charm and likeability of a mass grave.
The film can't even be bothered with continuity in its pitiful 90-minute runtime. The rider gets easily taken out by a grenade launcher, but then later on casually walks off an anti-tank missile. Danny can deactivate the rider, but Rourke can't. Carrigan can rot everything unless it's an ambulance. And why does the recent photo of Danny look like it was taken in Victorian times?
And finally, Nicolas Cage. To see the man act is to gaze into the yawning mouth of the abyss. With each new scene you can feel your soul just eroding away, leaving you a blackened husk with no joy, no hope, only oblivion. That man's a cunt.
Moreau said the rider was an angel that went crazy.
realistically, I can only recommend this film if for some reason you like watching a giant four-headed and talentless twat constantly staring at his fucking hand.
It's like a hurricane made out of piss.
It's like being raped by a cactus, but then having to pay for the privilege.
It was kind of like Cinderella, but at the end the carriage turned into all your childhood dreams dying.
Yeah, it'd be like Snow White and the 7 buckets of talentless shit that stack up together to form Nicolas Cage.